And public policy does drive a lot of what the public does have access to. If we're getting tax incentives and subsidies in one arena, but in not in another arena, even though both technologies exist and are usable, well, one's going to be more accessible to the public in terms of price, simple economics, than the other. So access to alternative energy did decrease during the oil boom, and that would be during the 1980s and the 1990s, where the price of oil was deemed reasonable and feasible to the public and then to industry at large. So then we had another shift in the economy and in public relations, and this occurred during the 2000s. I won't say like which exact year, but I'd say a general shift during the 2000s. And particularly now that we're at 2010 going towards 2011 and beyond, we're experiencing even more interest for a variety of reasons. As those of us who follow the news, we take a little spoonful of Pepto Bismol and try to follow the news lately of oil spills in the Gulf, conflicts over oil. Oh well, oil spills in our Gulf, the Gulf of Mexico, and then conflicts, actual wars being fought over oil in the other Gulf across the ocean, and then also very bad public relations with companies such as Enron, where fossil fuels are getting a very, very, very bad reputation. And it may be deserved, it may not be deserved, but we can all look at the news and pretty much make our own decision of what we think is happening and what we think is best for North America, and for the world at large. And even just as basic as how we feel about our bank accounts. Should we be paying more for oil, or should we be paying to explore other avenues? I'm definitely interested in what people of Des Moines have to say about this. And definitely people of Iowa and in the Midwest. I don't know if, someone from California might tune in. We've got some ex-Iowa patriots in Arizona and Mexico and, California, where Florida too, maybe. And so we can get the opinion of ex-Iowa or expatriates from Iowa and Florida who have the first, on the ground view of what's happening in their own either front or backyards. But anyway, there are solutions. I mean, for every problem, there is a solution. There's, a way to figure out what to do. We do have the answers. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy clicks her feet and says, the answer was with me all along. And so I do wonder, do we have the answer for global warming, for overuse of fossil fuels and their depletion, and then also for contamination of the ground, the air, and the water that we grow our food in, that we eat, that we drink, and that we breathe? Do we have the solution? And I do believe solutions exist, and I'm definitely interested in hearing what people think about it, whether you're part of a public utility, or if you're with our local government, or if you're a homeowner, or if you just have an opinion, or if you even work in that arena, if you currently own a solar or wind company in the state of Iowa, or you're a journeyman and you actually hold the tools in your hand and you make those installations and you know exactly what it takes to make it happen and the best practice to make it happen. I definitely want to hear from you about these solutions, and then whether the solutions you think work, are they reasonable, or Do we need to think about it some more? Do we need some more research? Do we need some more policy, or do we just need to do it? So, one, I believe, is public ownership of utilities might be one solution, or maybe one of many solutions implemented together. More progressive building codes, and then tax incentives and subsidies, and equalization of research and development dollars. I say public ownership of utilities because I do feel with the increase of public accountability and responsibility for energy use, there might actually be greater access to renewable if the public, had skin in the game. That I think that's what I was looking for. If we had our own skin in the game, then of course we want to do what's best for us. And in terms of progressive building codes, I think a lot of ordinances and zoning issues are barriers to implementation of renewable energy construction, depending on what state you live in, what city you live in, what region of the United States that you live in. And I don't know if these are actual barriers or if they're false barriers erected to protect existing corporate interests. I want to know, if I'm wrong, then tell me I'm wrong and show me the way I need to go. But if I'm right, then let's talk about how we can adjust or modify or eliminate altogether the barriers that don't need to be there. In terms of tax incentives and subsidies, that also drives corporate development. If you have a company A who's receiving dollars or getting excused from paying fees or taxes, or who's actually receiving research and development dollars to, say, for instance, develop a clean coal technology, or, clean oil technology, or nuclear, if they're getting the tax breaks, or, actually not even just getting a break, but are actually receiving federal dollars to keep their business going, then that's one thing. But I wonder what would happen if the same amount of money or even a greater amount of money were allocated towards renewable, whether it was fuel cells or solar or wind, and not just research and development, but actual installation. Because as we've discussed, wind energy technology has been in existence since, BC, before Christ, the 20th century. And then I haven't done as much exploration with solar, or what I did was like years ago, so it's not fresh in my mind. But we have been capturing sun energy for quite a while too. So I don't know if research and development are really the holdup, or if it's actually more legal or political barriers that are in place. And that's something to think about. So I've got some other news and information. We're kind of winding down to the last about 12 minutes of the show, and I've got some other news and information from the state of Iowa that I've run across on the internet that I think is worthy to touch on. Also, I'm going to be, I'll get to that first. I'm going to look at some other news and information. And so what I'm going to attempt to do, I was just shown how to use a camera. I'm going to hold up a map that I pulled off a website that's called www.iowalifechanging.com. And it's through the Iowa Department of Economic Development. And basically it's showing wind turbine manufacturing, suppliers, financing, and farms in Iowa.